Hey y'all, welcome back to Come Home with Jennah. I am Jennah Sears, your most favorite Texas realtor, and I am here to make sure that you know everything you need to know about purchasing real estate in the state of Texas or about purchasing real estate, period, in the United States. So today I have a very helpful and organized show for you planned, okay? So we are going to cover what happens when your offer gets accepted. We're going to talk about what an offer is, how it's written, how you figure out what to put in that offer, and then what happens when the seller receives the offer, they look through it, and what's next? What is next? How do you get from offer to closing and keys? So that's what we're going to review today. So let's jump right in. So here you are, you're ready to buy a house. Whether this is your first home purchase or your 15th, you probably aren't going through this process more than once a year. It would be highly unlikely. So even if you're an old pro and you know the things, I want to refresh your memory. So let's get into it. First of all, you are going to, if you remember back to my first or second episode, you are going to interview multiple buyer's agents. Remember? So you're going to choose your person, your realtor, who is going to represent you and your interests, who is going to hold your hand through this process. So once you've chosen your realtor, you're going to go through the fun process of looking at houses. This is everyone's favorite piece. But then what? Then you are going to submit an offer. Here's what that offer is. In Texas, most likely, your agent is going to use what's called a 1-to-4 contract. This contract is for any home that is existing already. If you are doing new construction, or if you are buying multifamily or something other than a single family home, condo, townhouse, that type of property, there's a different contract. But most of the time when we talk about submitting an offer, you're using that contract. So your agent is going to go over the numbers with you. They're going to run comps. Comps are homes in the area that have sold within 1 year, and they're comparable to the house that you want to purchase. So those numbers are going to tell you what price range would be appropriate. Your agent is also going to inform you on the market and micro market that you are purchasing in. This will let you know where you should come in and what things are going to be important in that contract. So, what's next? You write this offer, you look at the comps, your agent is going to make suggestions, but it's very important that you remember that you're the boss here. So just because your agent is advising you and giving you data, that doesn't mean you have to do what they're telling you, because you're the boss. This is your money. Their job is to inform you. Your job is to make a good decision for you. So the first thing you're probably going to talk about is price. Then you are going to talk about your down payment. Then you are going to talk about your closing date. Once all of these things have been discussed, you're going to get into the nitty-gritty. Who's going to be your escrow agent? Which title company will you use? Who's going to pay for what title policy? Your agent's going to walk you through all of these things, and they're all written into that contract. So one thing that some of my buyers don't think to ask for when they're submitting a contract is called a home warranty. So the home warranty, I think, is helpful for both sides. It protects both the seller and the buyer. Even though the buyer is going to get an inspection, there might be some things that come up that neither party know about and that the inspector did not see or didn't have access to. That home warranty is going to cover some of those things. And usually in the contract in Texas, that's written in as a dollar amount or a seller contribution. So say the seller is going to contribute $500 to that home warranty, but you as the buyer find a home warranty that you want that's maybe $750. That's fine. At the end, you're going to get a closing statement, and in that statement, it will show a seller credit for that $500, and then for the remainder, you will pay for that. So you can choose whatever you want, but in your initial contract, in your offer, you're going to have to write in that seller contribution. Then you are also going to want to pay very close attention to a little box that says as is. Are you going to accept the property as is, or is there some type of glaring issue that needs to be fixed prior to closing? This is a very important thing to talk through with your agent, because you will have time to get an inspection and go through that property with more due diligence. But sometimes there's just glaring things. There might be a leak. There might be a door missing. Who knows? A window could be cracked. You can ask for these things on the front end. So once your contract is written, your agent will walk you through every blank, because in Texas, it's very important to remember, well, and in the United States, that we are not attorneys. So we use what's called a promulgated form. All of our contracts are promulgated, and that just means we're not lawyers. We are not lawyers, and we have to just fill in those blanks. So there's only so much room that we have to work in that contract. However, it is your right always to hire a real estate attorney on top of a realtor if you want to put something more complicated or something in that offer that is not standard in that form. Just ask. Remember, this is your home, this is your purchase, and you are the boss. So they'll go over your offer with you, and then they're going to call the listing agent. They're going to send that offer in, and then you're going to sit and wait. And you're going to be nervous. You're going to be so nervous because you want this house. So the seller has a couple options. Their agent will review the offer, explain what it means, and they have a choice. Your offer is good if they take it exactly as you've written it. However, if they come back and want to change anything, it's over. You have to rewrite the contract. So they have to know that going in to the way that they're going to respond to your offer. So best case scenario here, let's say they accept your offer exactly how it's written. Once they accept it, they are going to sign it. So you've already signed it as the buyer. Now the seller is going to sign it, and one of those agents is going to execute it. All that means is they're going to date it, and now it's official and the clock has started. Your contract has just been executed. The seller accepted your offer and you are excited. What's next? Now you are going to look at that contract. Your agent is going to say, you have X days for option. What the heck is an option? Option is the period that you've paid for. Most likely you have to use some considerable sum. I would most likely look to your agent for guidance on what that sum should be. And that sum gives you a number of days to do your due diligence. That means that you will have access to the property. You can have an inspector come. If you need a roofer to come look at the roof, they can come. If you want a general contractor to come and give you some estimates, you have access to this property. And it's very important that you know you have the ability to walk away during that option period. And the only amount of money you will lose is your option money, whatever the sum you decided to essentially pay for that home to be taken off of active on the market. So a lot of times when people are looking at homes, they will look and see the statuses of them. And common ones are active option contract. That means an offer has been accepted and they're in that option period. So the buyer can leave for any reason and only lose that option money. Now, when I'm a buyer's agent, my job is not only to protect my client, the buyer, but also to protect the earnest money. So there's two amounts of money that go into an escrow account. Typically, it is the title company. An escrow is just a fancy word that means somebody is holding that money. And it's not the buyer, and it's not the seller, and it is never the realtor. I do not touch money. I will never touch money. It's just one of my personal rules. Not doing it. Sorry, no. So as the buyer, you're going to deliver the option money and the earnest money. The option money gives you that amount of time to do your due diligence. You can break the contract, walk away from the contract for any reason at all during option. Now that earnest money is good faith money. So that money is typically around 1% of the sales price. However, you're the boss. You can put any amount of money that you want in there. It just has to be a considerable amount of money. That money is going to sit in escrow. And that shows the seller that you are very serious about purchasing this home. So it lets them know you're a real buyer. So my job as the buyer's agent is to protect that money. The second most common way to be able to retain that earnest money as the buyer, if you break the contract, is due to financing. So you'll want to pay attention to how many days of financing you have that are written in your contract. So the financing time allows your lender, if you're using a loan or need a mortgage, to get you through underwriting, essentially. Now, one of the nice things post-pandemic is that lenders have gotten very good at doing underwriting much faster than we knew they were capable of prior to 2020. So those option days, and then you have your financing days. These are your two easiest outs. These are the most common ways that as a buyer you can exit that contract. Sometimes you could put 28 days into a financing, and you could just close in 30. So that's 2 days to where you could potentially not lose your earnest money if you break the contract. These are just really important things to keep in mind when you're submitting your offer, because you really want to understand what that offer says and what it's holding to you. This is a legal document, so it's just important that you understand what you're signing. So now you've gone through option, you've had your inspection. Now what are you doing? Just hanging out? Do you get to stay at the house? Do you get to see the house? You can absolutely request to see the house again. It's really up to you, but mostly you are going to be gathering all the docs for your lender during this time period. So you've had your option period. Also during the option period, you are going to negotiate any repairs. Now, the seller can say no, that they are not going to do any repairs, but you have to come to a consensus and agreement and have that agreement in writing before the option period is up. Here, it ends at 5 p.m. So I once had a client, and it was so sad because they were a married couple, and the husband, I don't know what happened, but basically she signed on time and he did not. And option came, 5 p.m. hit, he hadn't signed. So that amendment, the repair amendment, it was signed by the seller and it was signed by one of my buyers. But because of that timestamp, the sellers didn't necessarily have to honor that because he was late. So deadlines and timing are very important when it comes to this process. Ask your agent. They will tell you if you need to sign something, sign it on time, because in this case, we ended up having to renegotiate all of the repair requests, and they got far less than they had initially negotiated because he just didn't sign the document on time. And it was really frustrating for everyone because they also had lost their out because it was after 5 p.m. They could not terminate that contract anymore without losing that option money. Now, typically, the way that I like to advise my clients to have their offers written, both the option money and the earnest money, as long as the buyer closes on the property, will go towards the buyer. So that will cover closing costs, down payment, anything like that. But just remember, timelines are important. Signing things is important. This is a legal document, and you need to abide by what you said you were going to do within this document. So check your timelines. So the next thing you're going to do after option is over, you've agreed on any repairs that need to be made, then you're going to be finding all of your docs. I've had a couple lenders on so far, and I remind my clients all the time, look, you're going to love me through this whole process. You're going to be so annoyed at your lender for like 5 days. of this process because they are going to need so much paperwork from you. So be prepared. If you say you make X amount, your company is going to need to verify that. You are going to need tax returns. You are going to need bank statements. Please don't make any weird large deposits of cash that you can't account for. All that stuff, it's all going to get worked out in underwriting. So you go through underwriting. The bank is happy. The lender's happy. You get what's called a clear to close. Those are magic words in my industry. As a buyer, when you have a clear to close, that means you're ready. So 72 hours prior to closing, you're going to get a preliminary CD. It is not one of those little discs that we used to listen to and they would skip. It was just like a hot mess. No. This is a closing disclosure. It is going to go line by line and tell you exactly how much money is going where, who it's coming from, what it's being used for. It's all itemized. You have 72 hours prior to closing to review this and make sure that it is correct. So when your agent says, hey, your lender sent the CD, make sure everything is okay. Please go over it. And if you don't understand something that's on it, well, call your agent and your lender. That is why we are here. We want to make sure that you know what you're signing and that you understand every single document that crosses your computer screen now, because we e-sign a lot now. So we've gone through submitting the contract. We have talked about the option period. We talked about the two most common ways for you to exit the contract as a buyer and retain either your option money or your option and earnest money. Then we've talked about underwriting, how your loan is being processed, and we've learned what a clear to close is. Yay, that means you're in the clear. You can close, you're allowed. We know what a closing disclosure is, and now it's closing day. My number one question everybody always wants to know, when do I get the keys, Jennah? And this drives me insane. Not from my buyers, not from my sellers, but let me just tell you a little story. So I had beautiful house, great deal, cash buyer. Came in, and I'm representing the seller in this situation. And I think their buyer's agent was newer. We had not closed. Nobody had signed any documents. I always let my buyers know, please don't schedule movers the day that you close, because you have to both close and fund. So you have to sign the docs, the seller has to sign the docs, and then money has to change hands. This agent called me every 20 minutes. She wanted keys to the house. Think I'm going to hand over keys without signed documents and money? You're out of your mind. You're insane. You are insane. You do not get keys. I don't care. They were so upset. There's a moving truck sitting outside the house. And I said, I am so sorry. You should have advised your client not to schedule the moving company to come the day of closing at an hour where you know full well nobody signed any documents and money has not changed hands. So on this particular deal, it was a Friday. I hate Friday closings for this reason. And everyone signed. The buyer did not sign until 4 p.m. Usually a wire transfer cutoff is around 4 p.m., meaning the money is not going to change hands till Monday. When do you think keys got in that buyer's hand? Monday morning. So Friday we signed everything. We didn't fund until Monday. And I had an angry agent. And I said, well, that's too bad. You don't own the house. They don't own the house. They don't get keys. It's just that easy. You can have keys when you fund. And, that's a hard lesson, and better to learn that now when you're not in that situation than to be that buyer and just be, moving around your moving company and dealing with the fallout of you have closed, technically, everyone signed docs, but money hasn't changed hands. You don't own that house. You do not get access. So that is the final part. You are going to close and fund, and then you get keys. So that is the very short process of what the heck happens after your offer is accepted. So keep in mind, you're going to pick your agent. You're going to be represented. You're going to understand what you're signing. During your option period, you are going to do your due diligence. You are also going to negotiate any repairs that you might want. And the seller and you have to come to an agreement on what, if any, repairs will be completed. You should, based on whatever's written in that contract, get proof that those repairs were completed. Then you are going to love your lender and send them everything they need to know so that you can get through underwriting and get a clear to close. Then you're going to get your CD, your closing disclosure. Then you are going to show up at closing with your ID. Please don't forget your ID at closing. Then you are going to sign the papers. Seller is going to sign the papers. Your mortgage company is going to send the dollars. You are going to send your portion of dollars, whatever that might be. Then you fund, and then you get keys. So that is exactly the process, most likely. There will be bumps along the way too, but generally speaking, that's the process, start to finish, offer to keys. I hope this was helpful for y'all today. It was so much fun spending time with you. Please let me know if you have any questions at all. I love hearing from y'all. I really do. I have had a few emails and not a lot of questions, but lots of virtual high fives, which I'm a fan of. I need some affirmation. So keep sending those my way. I would also love any type of 5-star review. If you're not giving me 5 stars, don't bother leaving one. And I cannot wait to see you on our next episode. Bye.